Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the weekly Dailey podcast. It's good to be here today. It's a nice, bright, warm Sunday morning. It is, I think, June 25th. Getting the podcast done in a little bit more punctual fashion compared to last week. I was a little bit last minute, but wanted to get it done on the weekend, try to clip something out, throw it on the reels, get, 20 views, 2 likes, become a big social media star. So here we are, trying to get it done. It's about 9:30 in the morning. I'm paranoid. Usually around this time, or maybe in an hour or so, people start hopping in the pool and it gets loud. So trying to get it done before that. But yeah, it's been a fun week. The weather has been nice. Not as many storms the last couple of days, which has been nice. We've had quite a bit of rain and storm. I mean, over the last couple months, it's been very strange weather compared to the last 4 years or so that I've been here. And so getting a lot of storms, a lot of hail this last week. There was a lot of crazy hail. There's a tornado in Highlands Ranch, but pretty crazy. Fortunately, not a ton of hail here. If you guys aren't from the area, then you wouldn't probably know. If you are from the area, then this is not new news to you. But Red Rocks, I think it was maybe on like Wednesday, there was a concert and it got stormed out and it was crazy. There was a bunch of videos on social media about it because there was like 3-inch hail. I mean, just massive hail. And so there's a bunch of stories on Instagram and TikTok and videos out there of people literally being at Red Rocks, which is an outdoor venue with really no cover to find, and people just getting trapped in this storm with all this hail and just people getting pelted, like legitimately dangerous situation. So fortunately, none of that big hail here where I'm at. That'd be bad. My car doesn't have a cover, so that could be the end of the old Honda Fit if some 3-inch hail comes around these parts. But yeah, here I got a new first time wearing this shirt, High Plains shirt from the High Plains Comedy Festival last year. Wasn't on it, just volunteered. But I'll tell you what, it's the shirt feels good. The material, first time putting it on, but it's a brown color. I've never been able to pull off brown. For some reason, it's one of those things. You live as an individual and you learn the things you can pull off and you learn the things you can't pull off. And I think all of us, internally, you're a little, especially when you're younger, you get a little jealous because, this person can pull off this style and you can't. There's a lot of them that I've never been able to. Brown has never been a color that fits well with my complexion. A lot of things. I mean, let's go through the list of things that I've never been able to pull off, and probably wanted to more so when I was, when you're in like middle school and you're like, oh, I want to get frosted tips and have a cool, shoes or whatever. I've never been able to pull off Timberlands. That was one thing. That was big when I was in middle school. What kind of shoes are Timberlands? Like the boots. Everybody knows Timberlands. I couldn't pull it. It would just look like I was wearing my dad's shoes. If I was wearing, I couldn't. It was too small. Couldn't pull those off. I remember wanting, growing up in the 90s, Jinkos. Those big pipe jeans were big. I think I might have had a couple, like half Jinkos. They weren't Jinko brand, but they were like the Walmart or Target brand, and they weren't quite as big. I'm going to go out on a limb and say pretty much nobody pulled off Jinkos. Everybody looked foolish, very stupid. So I'm very glad that my parents didn't allow me to get those or didn't buy any. I'm looking at my window over here and I see I don't know if it's a spider or what, but a lot of bugs coming in. I'm a little distracted by the moths and the bugs, the creepy crawlies all around. But anyways, back to couldn't pull off Timberlands, Jinkos, When it comes to, I've said it before, but the hats, I've never been good at pulling off. Certain colors, not good at pulling off. Honestly, the main colors, I feel like a light blue, which honestly is a good color for most people, I think. But a white, a light blue, and then like a light colors. Dark colors, I don't think have fit my complexion all that well. I never pulled off a lot of jackets. And then a lot of hairstyles. My hair has, I mean, obviously I've talked about it thinning in recent years, but my entire life it's been pretty thin, so I've never been able to style it very much, like growing it out super long, or the little styles like in middle school where you like spike it up, or just, all the cool styles. You live and you learn and you go, man, there's a couple things I can pull off. Most things I cannot. And brown, back to what I originally was talking about. Brown colored shirts have never really, I don't know, it sounds like I'm making this bold statement. I can't pull it off. I don't think people really care at the end of the day too much. It's probably fine. But it just isn't my go-to. Which is funny because I think a lot of us, we all have like this collection that grows and grows, a wardrobe collection. And, we have all these shirts and outfits and pants and whatever, but like only actually wear a pretty small percentage of that. And it's because, certain colors and certain oh, that's another thing that I've never been able to pull off. I have a small head and kind of a long neck. So a V-neck, ooh, that is a no-no. I look real silly in a V-neck. Which yesterday I went to a barbecue outside, like backyard party, and I tried to do the sleeveless shirt, get rid of my farmer's tan a little bit, and I felt a little insecure. Not that it's a big deal, but it just, I don't know. I felt like the vibes coming off of me were kind of like goofy. I wanted to cover a little bit. I went and got a jacket. But yeah, V-necks can't pull off there's like a new style. I don't know if it was maybe like 5 or 10 years ago, but it was the necks of shirts being like really wide. I can't pull that off with the long neck. I need a neck hole that's real tight. It helps for some reason to make my neck look less giraffe-like. What are other things? Sunglasses I've never been able to really pull off. You get those like generic sunglasses or whatever I can wear, but like in Oakley's or certain styles, I look foolish. I look silly. I've probably tried to pull it off, but not a great look. Headband, sweatband. Not a lot of people. I mean, I think a lot of people look. I remember trying to wear a sweatband when I was playing intramural college basketball. And I was like, oh, it'll be funny to go out there with like a headband and like a sweat or wrist guard or whatever, the sweatbands. And what it really comes off as is like a try hard. I don't think people like it. Intramural sports in college was pretty competitive. It was fun, but I played intramural basketball, and we got dominated so bad. I played basketball a couple years in rec when I was in middle school, and then did not play in high school. I was never very good, but in college, we got a friend group together and put together an intramural team, and we're like, we're gonna do it. We're gonna crush. And we were so bad. I mean, people are serious about it. Like, people on these other intramural teams are like, I remember our first game we played against, the point guard was like he was a college basketball athlete who I think maybe had an injury or transferred schools or something, but he was a point guard at a college team. And game one, I'm point guard for our team, not because I'm good at it, strictly because we had nobody else. Like, it was just like, hey, you're kind of small and nimble. You're the point guard. And he was full court pressing me every play. And I was so uncomfortable. I was like, dude, my handles are so bad. I was literally telling my teammates, like, sub me out. Somebody else come in here. Turnovers are going to happen. I don't want to be the one doing it every time. We got beat really bad a couple times. We also, it's funny because every friend group has like a bigger, larger person. And so, which, not even like huge, but we had a guy in our friend group who was like, he was like 6 foot, 6'1", 200 something pounds. I don't know how much he wasn't that big, but he was, bigger than me, bigger than a lot of my friends, or, smaller individuals like myself. And so we're like, hey, big friend, you'll be the perfect center. You're a big, solid body. You're going to dominate in the paint. And boy, let me tell you what. He was the tiniest center on all the teams. He did not dominate in the paint at all. He wasn't blocking. He wasn't rebounding. He wasn't scoring. It was very sad. But I had fun with it. Intramural or any sports were fun. I think I did intramural basketball and intramural soccer, which was also fun. I miss playing soccer. I played a couple leagues as an adult. That was fun. And then we did we did indoor soccer. It was a tournament. It was like a 1 day or a weekend tournament, like elimination style. And boy, was that also embarrassing. We had, I think it was like 6v6. And for some reason, we signed up for this, but a lot of people weren't able to make it. So we only had 4 people. We were on the brink of having to forfeit. But we just had enough to play, but we're 2 people down. So we're playing 6-4, and they did it in the gym. It was in the, it was on a basketball court. And the goals, instead of having actual nets and goals, they just used like the padding on the walls, like behind the basketball hoop. That, just they have padding there usually to soften the blow when people are playing basketball, if they're running too quick. Instead of hitting the wall directly, they have the padding there. So that kind of, whatever it was, 6x8, whatever, they just use that. If you hit that, that's a goal. And another rule was goalies couldn't use their hands. And I remember I was goalie for a little bit, and the team were playing. I mean, they're dominating us. We're probably losing 50-0. And the other team, they kick the ball, and you can't use your hands. So I have, I had my hands, I think, behind my back, kind of to prevent any handballs. And they hit me right in the place you don't want to get hit. And I went down, and I was like, in pain. I was like, I'm going to throw up. And I remember the ref in college, intramural, it's just a college student who's getting paid $7 an hour, and they're hungover or whatever. And he was like, you got to get up. You got to keep going. And I was like, bro, I might need to go to the doctor. What are you? And I remember just kind of laughing afterwards, because it's like, dude, I got hit so hard. And you're just like, get up, keep going. I'm like, you get up. I mean, he was already up. That was how good my comebacks were back then. They didn't even make sense. He's like, get up. And I'm like, you get up, sir. But that was always fun, playing intramural. College sports never had it's funny because you grow up and you have these like dream moments of winning a tournament or, accomplishing like a big thing, whether it's in sports or other things. And for me as a kid, sports were kind of the thing that I thought about, that I attached myself to, rather than, music or whatever other thing that maybe you dream of accomplishing this big thing. And I never really had that moment of like this big accomplishment, but this is how low stakes and how not great I was at a lot of things. My career high in basketball in rec was 9 points. I went 3 for 4 from beyond the arc. 9 points. I sat the bench most of the time, so just getting to shoot a couple 3-pointers was a big deal. And that was the most points I scored in a rec game, or any game, my entire career until I got to college. In one game, I scored 18 points in a game, and that was like, that kind of goes down. That's in my memory bank is a pretty big highlight in my sports career. So what's up, LeBron? 30 points a game, get out of here. I was half that in intramural league against against much less talented. That's a weird statement. Much less? Is that proper English? Much less talented individuals for a small D1 school. But anyways, back to what I've been up to this week. It's been another busy week, pretty fun week. What did I do? I guess I only went out to a handful of open mics. I did a handful of shows as well. I did a brewery show in Littleton on Thursday. That was a good time. Did a 10-minute spot there. And, it was a free show. It was kind of one of those where a decent amount of people were listening. Other people, they weren't disrespectful and chatting, but maybe not paying full attention. But it's good to do those shows, and it feels just to force yourself to be in the moment and kind of pivot if jokes aren't going well or if you need to talk to the crowd. So I felt good about that, just being kind of in the moment and going through some things. And then Friday, I did an open mic, and I'm trying out, I think I might have mentioned it last week, trying out a new joke about jumping jacks. Again, real divisive material that I'm choosing to use as my jokes. But, I was pretty excited about it. I've been writing and editing over the last week or two before even bringing it to stage. And it went well on Friday. I felt good about it. But here's the thing. I did it last night, Saturday, and I no longer feel good about it. That's funny how jokes work. You get a little excitement with a good set, feel comfortable about it. You do it again, it's the opposite, and you're like, I'm never saying this joke again. But we'll see. I need to say it a couple more times to get more feedback on it. But yesterday I did it at a show, and I don't know. I probably was a little stiff with it. I don't have it like fully the cadence and memorization down in the best way. So I'll keep running it this week. I've got to write a little bit more, some new topics to try to, just get some new stuff out there and figure stuff out. But yesterday was fun. Saturday, did a couple things. Went to a backyard, like a kind of barbecue party that had a comedy show. And that was fun. Just people kind of hanging out. And then for a 45-minute period or so, got together, watched a couple comedians, do some stuff. And then I brought my equipment to that show. And then literally as we finished and I was packing up, someone hit me up to see if I had my equipment on me for another show. So I ended up doing that brewery show where I mentioned I did the jumping jacks bit. And they didn't like it. It felt good, though. It was a good crowd. It was a fun show. And I did a couple new things up top that did not do well. And then I ended with a couple jokes and really got them back, and they enjoyed it. So it felt good to, like, kind of stumble up front, but then bring them back at the end. So that's always good because, not everything's going to land. It's all about how you, what's the phrase? How you pick yourself up and move forward when you're not doing good or whatever. But that was good today. And then after that I went to another open mic. So I did 3 things last night. It was a busy night. I went and did an open mic, and I tried the jumping jacks joke again and didn't feel great about it. So it's kind of 1 for 3 at the moment as far as how it's gone. But we'll keep at it, get some more feedback, maybe edit, change some things, add, subtract, and see if I can salvage something out of it. And if not, that's okay. Put it on the back burner, maybe come back to it, maybe not. Write some new stuff, figure out what's funny. So that's kind of what I've been up to this next week. Coming up here on Tuesday, I've got New Talent Night at Comedy Works, which I guess will be the day before this comes out. But always fun to do the club. So I'll do a set there. And then I have New Faces, which is the competition, the following Wednesday. So get to do the club twice in about a week. That'll be fun. And then I'm trying to think. Got Odell Brewing on Thursday. Looking forward to that as well. It's a show that I run and we'll probably be hosting. So got to do the promo today. I got a bunch of stuff. I got a long list, laundry, promo for that show, write jokes, go for a run, eat food, clean the house. You guys get it. Just the fun stuff, the fun Sunday stuff before your week starts. And then I probably got some other stuff maybe that I can't fully remember. That might be it for next week. So that'll give me an opportunity to write some more stuff, try some new stuff out, and check that jumping jacks bit out a little bit more. See if there's anything there. But aside from that, I'll tell you guys what. I've been watching. So here's a couple things. I've been watching some Netflix. I've been watching a lot of YouTube. YouTube's my go-to. Just throw on some YouTube videos, whether it's golf or podcast or recently some new video game stuff. But before I get into that, watched a lot of Netflix movies and series, and one that I watched recently, which was very interesting. It's a mini series. I've watched 3 out of the 4 episodes. It's called Merpeople, and it's a mini series about people who are pursuing mermaids as a career, and they're obsessed with. And when I say pursuing mermaids, like, the career of being a mermaid, I guess. So whatever that means, whether it's performing in a aquarium or in a tank at a live show, but a lot of it too is like building a following and on social media and taking pictures. And there's a guy who he's done like a music video for a song he wrote about mermaid. It's a very interesting, strange series that has been, I can't fully tell if the person who's edited, like the producer and director, made it to make fun of these people or if they're actually serious. It's kind of tough to tell because the way it's edited, it's just like, oh, you kind of are, it seems like you're purposely making these people look crazy, which they, not to be mean, but some of them do look pretty crazy. They're, it's kind of sad too. It's funny because it relates very much to comedy, pursuing this dream of an art that you enjoy. And for them, it's being a mermaid, and, going out and doing gigs where you get paid to be a mermaid. But comedy, pursuing comedy can be sad in a lot of ways from an outside perspective. I get it. People who are doing it, it's just part of it. But, part of doing it is not getting paid for a long time. It's driving hours and hours to do a couple minutes of time and maybe not getting paid or not getting paid much. It's not, a lot of the behind the scenes, I see similarities with comedy to this mermaid stuff, but the mermaid stuff is even sadder because it's not a big industry. So these people are like fighting for such limited spots at like, I don't even know what you would call them. They're highlighting a couple places like Vegas, which kind of makes sense. I think maybe has some shows and stuff where mermaids are relevant. But there's a couple other spots that are basically like, it's kind of like SeaWorld on a much smaller scale, but they have like some mermaid live performance things. So they're a lot of them, they're in like a live aquarium tank. So they're swimming around with fish and with stingrays and stuff. And, people driving across the country or flying in to try out and then, see if they can get some sort of gig long term. But boy, is it silly. I mean, it's highlighting people that are like at a YMCA. The very beginning of the show is they talk about how it's difficult to be allowed in pools when you have the big mermaid fin. And so it's just showing people, they're like, there's this one pool that allows us to go, but it's only during the senior aerobics class, like first thing in the morning on Monday. And so it's like a bunch of old people doing like, their little arm exercises and stuff. And then two people in the corner just flapping their mermaid tails, just splashing around. And look, to each their own. I think I'd be a hypocrite if I truly made fun of them pursuing something they want to do, because that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm pursuing comedy, something that I want to do as a job. And but it is funny to see, because there's also plenty of people who are in comedy who are quote unquote pursuing it, but you're like, are you though, or are you just like not mentally well? Which again, not to try to make fun of that. I think everybody's got some stuff going on that you could say, oh, well, we're all mentally a little off. But when you throw a mermaid tail on it, look, it's just funny. It's silly. It's interesting. If you haven't watched it, check it out. Merpeople. It reminds me a lot of a documentary that I watched years ago, probably when I was like in college. It was a documentary about LARPing, which if you're not familiar, I think it's live action role play, which is people who dress up like a fantasy character, and they'll build like their own like styrofoam or Nerf, whatever material it is, but like they'll make weapons and swords and they'll have little bean bags for spells. That's something that people do. They'll go out to like a park or something, and then they'll live action role play. They'll fight against each other. And I saw a documentary on that years ago, and it reminded me of it because I remember watching the documentary, and it was so interesting. But I was like, I can't tell if the producer or director is making this to make fun of LARPing, or if they're trying to present it to a wider audience. But that's what's cool about documentaries. You get kind of an inside scoop about just a realm that you would maybe otherwise never know about. Like stand-up isn't massive. I think a lot of people aren't real familiar with like the ins and outs and behind the scenes when it comes to stand-up comedy, but comedy is certainly more well-known and understood than Mermaids. So something like Mermaids or LARPing are like a very, very tiny segment where a lot of people, it's just, I had no clue. They talked about in Merpeople about the cost of the mermaid tails being like anywhere in between $2,500 to $5,000 each, and it's like a very niche industry, so it's just very expensive. And a lot of these people, they're pursuing this thing. They don't have a lot of money. They're not getting a lot of gigs, and the cost for entry is like, whoa, that's a lot. I mean, that would be like doing comedy and like this microphone. It's like you got to pay $2,500 to have the microphone just to like do comedy. Most people would be like, I guess I'm not doing comedy then. But if you want to be a mermaid, you got to pay up, Mermaids ain't cheap, okay? It was funny, too. One guy, he was like, I'm convinced that I come from, like, mermaid heritage. He's like, my grandfather told me that he saw a mermaid in the ocean. He picked it up, and I'm pretty sure I'm a descendant. And I was like, what are you saying? That'd be wild, though, if mermaids were, like, you don't hear much about mermaids, but, like, Bigfoot, people talk about, like, finding, what if we found a mermaid? And what if it was the Little Mermaid, the Disney character, and it started singing? Okay, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's real. Where's Sebastian? I don't remember much about that movie, if I'm being honest. The original. I haven't seen the newer ones, new one, however many there are, but the original Disney one, I think it was good. I remember Ursula and Ariel. I think Sebastian, was he a crab? Was he a fish? I can't remember. All those Disney movies from when I was a kid, it's tough to remember. I mean, I have fond memories of like just generally enjoying a bunch of those movies. Like when I was growing up, you had Bambi, The Lion King, Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. They were all very good. Beauty and the Beast, I remember the storyline pretty well. And I guess actually a lot of them, like The Lion King, I remember they're pretty played out. Maybe it's because they've remade them. I don't know. But there's other ones like Bambi. It's like I know Bambi's parent got killed immediately. And then the rest of the movie, no idea. No clue what happened. Lion King, I can remember. Beauty and the Beast, obviously the beast turns into not a beast at the end. And a lot of plates and candles talk leading up to that. That's kind of, that's the recipe for a good Disney movie. If you get some plates and candles to chat it up, some plate candle dialogue, and then you get like a wildebeest who like has like a rose petal that floats around in a little enclosed thing, and then he magically turns into Fabio. I mean, how is that not going to be a successful movie? Disney movies, man. That was just being a kid. That's an interesting time where you're just like everything you watch is so good. It's brand new. You're blown away. I mean, as a kid, just getting to watch TV for an hour and a half was like incredible. I had a lot of rules around TV. Not a lot of good TV. That I didn't have. I didn't have cable. I think we got DirecTV when I was like 13. So my entire childhood up until 13 was just cable. And it was very limited, like, a lot of rules as far as how much I could watch, which was very minimal. But the options were so limited. I think it was ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, PBS, and I think that was it, pretty much. So on the NBC, ABC, CBS, I would watch sports. I think that's what got me very much into sports. But that was usually on the weekend. So like college football, NFL, basketball, all the sports usually on the weekends. And then there was one Saturday morning, which I can't remember. That might have been ABC, but that was like an hour or two on Saturday morning of cartoons and some stuff. That was huge. Big deal for me. And then PBS. And, oh, gosh. I mean, it's funny looking back because it was the only thing, like I just said, I'm going to contradict myself as far as a kid. When you're a kid, you watch anything and you love it. And I'm sure I loved it back then, but looking back, the shows on PBS, I'm like, ugh, gosh, like Wishbone and Reading Rainbow. And look, these were fine shows, but when I got DirecTV and there's like the Disney Channel and Cartoon Network and I don't think I had Cartoon Network, but Nickelodeon, like actual kid cartoons, you're like, this is incredible. You're like, I just went from Reading Rainbow, where dude's like, reading's fun, Rainbow or whatever. I can't remember what that show's about, but then you actually have like a good cartoon. You're like, this is so much better. So much better. Wishbone. I don't know. You're like, this is a dog that is named Wishbone. And kind of similar to Bambi. I remember Wishbone, he was a dog. That was his name. What was that show about? No clue. No clue. I couldn't tell you a thing. I probably watched a bunch of Wishbone. Didn't stick with my memory. Wasn't good enough. But yeah, when I was 13, finally got DirecTV, and that, ooh, man. Disney Channel, real big fan. Even Stevens, Nickelodeon, a bunch of Rugrats, SpongeBob. I was, by the way, I am bouncing all around right now. I had one cup of coffee, and I feel like I had an energy drink. I don't know what's going on, but apologies if I'm just darting all over the place, not making sense. But yeah, all those shows on Nickelodeon, like Rugrats, SpongeBob, a bunch of these things, like I didn't get that until I was kind of going into high school, so I was catching up on a bunch of these shows that had been out for a while when I was in high school. So a little bit later than probably most people. But I think SpongeBob was kind of like a cool thing for people in high school. I bought a SpongeBob shirt, I think my senior year. And similar to like Jinkos and fashion that you look back on, that was a mistake. Wearing that little tiny SpongeBob shirt around. And I go, why didn't I date in high school? Why didn't anybody want to date me? Well, maybe because you're wearing a child shirt and you look dumb. That's why. I didn't know how to get a proper haircut until I was 25. I mean, it took me, by the time I got a proper haircut, my hair was probably thinning. It's like, well, you figured out what looks good on your head, but now your hair is ready to go, which is pretty wild. But that's, I don't know how I started on this ramble. I was talking about watching videos on YouTube and mer people, and watching a bunch of stuff. But one thing that I did see recently on YouTube was a trailer or gameplay for a new video game called Starfield, I think it is. I think it's a Bethesda game. And I haven't done a lot of video games recently. Almost, very, very minimal amounts over the last 5 to 7 years. A little bit here and there during the pandemic, maybe a little bit more. But most of it has been playing Halo or like a first-person shooter, hopping on with a buddy and just kind of using it as a medium to chat and catch up. But Starfield, it's like this big, what do you call it? RPG, I think, role-playing game. I don't know. It's about basically a massive universe and like 1,000 planets and traveling and just discovering a bunch of stuff. The graphics look unbelievable, and it looks pretty cool. I've been kind of seeing those and watching and getting kind of, when you start thinking ahead, being like, ooh, maybe I'll get into this. Which, in order to get into it, I will have to buy a new console. So we'll see. I doubt that'll happen, at least in the near future. I don't even know when it's coming out. It might not even be out for the next year or so. But there's a bunch of gameplay, a bunch of information about it. So I've been watching that. And boy, I tell you what, sometimes you see those video games, and as much as it's easy to say, and I will say this, other people say this, it's like, man, you played this much time on a video game, you could have been learning a new language, you could have been playing guitar, you could have been going out and, doing comedy more than you already are. And that's true. But also, just like anything in life, life is all about balance. And, sometimes playing a little video games as like a getaway, I think can be very fun, very interesting. So I've been kind of like, oh, could this be something that I get into a little bit? We will see. Time will tell. But video game, I think I've probably said this before, but a dream career, and hopefully, maybe in the future, hopefully it'll be plausible. I think you have to get to a certain level of success to have this be a possibility, but being a full-time comedian and maybe getting to play golf during the day, and then also maybe like a Twitch streamer or just playing video games. It doesn't have to be broadcast, but I think that could be another way to have fun, engage with the community, and maybe help to build a following that transfers over to stand-up as well. But that would be the dream. Play some golf during the day, go do a show, come back, and, play a couple hours of Starfield or whatever. And be like, wow, I'm making money being a child. I'm playing games, I'm telling jokes, I'm, playing Starfield. Oh, boy. That would be the best. I would very much enjoy that. One day. Hopefully one day. Like I said, I think you have to get to a certain level of success to be able to do that. Because if you're like a road dog and traveling hard, it's going to be tough to, if you're on the road all the time, it's tough to play video games. But if you're at a certain level of success where you're doing spots locally, so you're going home at night and then you can play your video games at your house, that would allow you to do that. And then if you're like even higher than that, you see some people that are doing like a tour bus situation where they'll just bring their console on the tour bus and they'll play from there. Obviously, that's a very, very high level of success that's pretty unrealistic to assume that I'd be able to get there. But also, you know what? Why not? I'm going to be bald soon. A lot of people are bald. That's relatable, okay? Maybe people will buy tickets because they're like, he's bald, I'm bald. Let's go hear the bald guy talk. And then enough people buy tickets, and I go, look, I got a bus now, a tour bus. And that would be fun. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what the future brings, but comedy is fun, and I'm going to keep having fun with it, keep being creative, trying to get better. I said it in the last podcast, but I got some fun stuff coming up. July should be fun. I've got a trip to Tulsa. I've got New Faces, competition at Comedy Works, and then a bunch of other stuff that I can't remember off the top of my head, but a bunch of other shows that should be exciting. And yeah, I'm hoping, I've been working on a bunch of new stuff, new jokes, nothing that I'm like unbelievably excited about as far as the success of the jokes, but just keep at it, keep adding time together. I'm getting to a point now where I feel confident, certainly confident that I can fill the time as far as a headliner time frame, 45 minutes. I realize, I understand it's not going to be the best 45 minutes. But a part of becoming a headliner and moving up in comedy is filling the time, having the time. So I feel like I'm getting to that point to where here fairly soon in the future, I'll probably start looking at setting up runs and tours where I will be the headliner and do a large amount of time. And look, I get, there's probably out of the couple people who listen to this and go, Ben, headliner, what? He's not good enough. And look, maybe I'm not. But obviously a huge part of getting better is doing it. So going out and quote unquote headlining, figuring out how to get better at headlining, the tricks and secrets, and not even secrets, but just figuring out how to, it's a different format when you're headlining, doing a long chunk of time versus a shorter amount. So yeah, just getting out there and figuring out how to get better at it, what jokes are working better than others, what jokes need to be replaced, etc., yada, yada, yada. And yeah, just keep grinding from there. I'm still only, I'm less than 5 years in, so I'm still a baby in a lot of ways, in most ways when it comes to comedy. So just the fact of trying to, going from year one to now to being like 45 minutes, let's go run all the jokes and work it out is very exciting. So looking forward to next month, July. I've got some fun stuff in August as well. And yeah, really looking forward to setting some stuff up in the future where start figuring out how to do those longer sets and how to once you start doing that, obviously more money is available if you're headlining. So yeah, got a lot of stuff to get better at and work at, but excited for that challenge, excited for that learning process. But yeah, I've rambled a lot in this episode. I say this at the end of every episode. Did you guys enjoy this? Was this interesting at all? I tried to do a little bit more rambling about random stuff than just comedy talk, which I feel like I've filled out a lot of the last episodes with a lot of comedy talk, which I want to do, but I don't know if it's necessary. It's not necessarily like these long stories that are very interesting. It's kind of more, hey, this is what I did. This is what's coming up. This is something that happened. Today, honestly, I don't even really remember what I talked about. Went on a lot of rants, and I don't know if it jumped too much or if it was interesting. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. I will respond if you comment. And that has been Daily Guarantee. But thanks so much for listening, guys. Appreciate you guys sticking around if you made it to the end here. And yeah, I'll see you guys again next week.